This is the Friday Rugby Preview on Borders Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview. And although we are coming to the end of the 15 season, there's still a few issues to be sorted out, and we'll be previewing Berwick's huge match against Preston Lodge at Pennypit tomorrow, as well as the Langholm Sevens, and also having a chat with Matty Douglas, Bruce McNeil, Danny Owenson and Liam Scott, who were at the first get-together for the 39-man South of Scotland squad during the week. And as usual, Dale Clancy is here to have a chat, and let's start, Dale, with a very exciting weekend last Saturday. Hawick made the cup final, Kelso won promotion, Hawick Quins took the East League 3 title, Berwick got a good win against Lasswade to put them in pole position to stay in National 2, and to cap that, Glasgow Accies beat league leaders Falkirk by 39 points. They needed 38 for promotion to take the National 2 title. So a Saturday of high drama, and it all happened outside the borders as well, and it was really good to have people on the ground in Glasgow, Inverness, Berwick and Edinburgh to cover it all.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the weekend past it just highlights again the great work I think that you do, Stuart, and obviously what the kind of service that you give the clubs, and it's obviously well received because you're thinking about the coverage that all these clubs have been getting, going out with the borders to try and make sure that not only the borders clubs are being covered, but also the other teams that are that are contributing to what is the success or the demise of borders clubs this season. So it was great, and especially speaking to you after, I wasn't available at the weekend, and went down on Sunday to Berwick Sevens, and the buzz and speaking about it when I was watching it on social media, because I just couldn't get up at the time and I couldn't get tuned in, but listening to everything that was coming in, it was just such a big weekend, and especially the Glasgow Accies game as well. Had nothing to do with borders clubs, but it's just such an absolute crazy end to that campaign. 3 teams and the possibility of going up, all involved. I believe Newton Stewart got a bus to the game. They would have went home a bit disappointed because Glasgow Accies pulled it from the fire, but great for Hawick to get into the final as well of the Cup. It's going to be a huge game against Mar, and also Quins as well. It's great for them to get over the line, and once they're back now, back into the fold, they can hopefully start building success.
So our attention turns now to Pennypit, Preston Lodge against Berwick, and kind of set this up for us, Dale, because for anyone who hasn't been following the league reconstruction and how that's affected the national leagues, it's been quite dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like in summary, Berwick have been promoted last season, came into the league above. They've equipped themselves really well. They have lost some games that they perhaps will look back on and think that they could have won. They sit mid-table, but they go into a cup final this weekend because the way that the league structure is going to be reshuffled. There's 5 teams going down from National 2. Or, I say going down, they're going to be relocated, if you will, because there's going to be, wherever the teams are going to be lying in the end of the national structure, there's going to be slices pretty much put across to make sure that there's 10 teams in each division. Berwick need to win. Did the great work, almost lost it last weekend against Lasswade, but they've given themselves a chance. That we've been speaking, there's games against Hamilton, Boroughmuir that they could have won. Peebles twice they could have won. They could be going into this weekend secure of their place in the division, but they're not. So they need to go to Preston Lodge, and they need to make sure that they at least equal or better their results. So it's a win or a draw, and they'll stay up. Or I'm sure you've got the full lowdown that you've been working on for the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it is interesting. I do happen to have it with me at this moment in time. So 3 ways Berwick can be promoted, obviously if they win. If they draw the game as well, that will be good enough, because at the moment they are 2 points ahead and they've got a much better points difference over Preston Lodge. And also if they lose the game but get 2 points without Preston Lodge getting a try bonus, then they'll go up as well. Preston Lodge, on the other hand, they'll be promoted if they win by more than 7 points, or they stop Berwick getting a try bonus point, or win with a try bonus point. So there we are. Hopefully it won't come to that, and it'll be either a win for either side. And let's just hope it's a great match from 2 teams that have really worked hard this season, and one of them's going to go, sadly.
Yeah, and I think it is set up to be a great game, because Preston Lodge, they're a historic club. They've been as high as you like in Scottish club rugby, obviously finding it difficult to try and settle and find their level now. And Berwick have worked really hard over the years to get themselves back up into the top leagues. So it is a cup final. We've got we've got a cup final coming up in a few weeks' time, but this could be, one of those big games with a huge crowd. Like, I'm sure Berwick will be there in their droves. I'm sure the Preston Lodge fans will be coming out as well. They'll put in a lot of, hospitality. It'll be such a big event and a big, big game, and eventually it's going to be 80 minutes between two sides. Whoever comes out on top is going to retain their status in that league.
Well, let's begin our preview of this game with Mickey Yanotta, who was at Berwick last weekend for the Berwick game against Lastwade, which they won by 22 points to 21. He spoke to head coach Colin Young and Berwick players Colin Emery, and first, captain Jack Webster.
Jack, it's going to be a very big week of training for you now, isn't it? Because you've got one game to go and it's a must-win.
It is, yeah. We said the same at the start of this week, that we had 2 big weeks of training leading into 2 big games. So thankfully we've got a win today in a bit of a sort of a scrappy game, which will stand us in good stead for next week, hopefully.
In fact, it will, won't it? Because the sheer weight of Lastwade is what you're going to expect from Preston Lodge, especially from what I saw here from them.
Yeah, said it before, we've played Lastwade that many times over the last couple of seasons that both sides know what we're about. So we knew what they were going to come down and play like. So, a pretty ideal test for us, really. A bit of a scrap. Just sharpens the minds for that big game next week.
Now, at home to Preston Lodge, it was very clear that the perfect platform was set up by the forwards and the backs did deliver. So that you're going to take encouragement with that.
Yeah, we are. I think it was 43-26, I think, in the game here. But we've got a decent home record. Said it before, we back ourselves to beat anyone at home. But most teams in this league will be at. Preston Lodge will be thinking the same. They'll be thinking they've got the advantage being at home. We've not got a great away record this season, so I don't think the game in December will probably have that much bearing on it, to be honest. Like I say, we've had a big couple of weeks of training, a good test today, and we'll try and take that into next week.
Jack, what is it that stops you from winning away like you do at home?
If I could answer that, Mickey, we'd probably be a lot further up the league and we wouldn't be in a relegation battle next week, to be honest. It's probably the same thing that galvanises us at home. We come here, we've had a good record over the last couple of years at home. You get that extra bit of confidence, you've got your own fans behind you. So it's the same when you go to all these grounds. Any team at home, they get their own fans behind them. Everyone's just that bit more comfortable at home. You haven't had a bus journey, especially where we are. We've got to travel a fair distance to most of these places, which isn't ideal. So, it's probably exactly the same as teams that come here. We always back ourselves to beat teams when they come here, and I think it's probably just the same.
I mean, apart from learning to grow in this division, you've now become more assertive in the sort of grey areas of the game as well, haven't you, in this league?
Yeah, we've got obviously quite a young team. It's been together for a few years, but again, we've come from sort of the regional leagues. We've come up from East 1 through Nat 3, leagues that aren't as strong as the league that we've come into. So it's our first season at this level. It has taken us a bit of time to adjust to it, but like you say, we've shown that we've got what it takes to be in this league and compete in this league week in, week out. So hopefully we can get the job done next week and get another season at it next year.
We are probably guilty of playing a bit too much rugby, but next week we'll have a strong go at just trying to keep the ball up the jumper for a bit and then earn our right to play wide. That's what we're all about.
Last time I spoke to you were telling me that the size of the packs in this division surprised you. Do you think you've asserted yourselves better now to that?
I think so. I think even today, Lastwade probably one of the bigger packs in the league, and we stood up well. First game we got our eyes open was against Peebles, where here they drove us over quite a bit. But ever since then, we've worked hard on sort of a technique at scrum time and just winning the space. That's what Colin's done a lot of stuff at training, winning the space, win the space. We're not wanting to get tackled behind the gain line, and we made a big point of doing that. So I think it's definitely worked up to this point.
But it is a team unity. This is what Colin always talks about, and that will get you through.
Definitely, yeah. Like I say, we're all Berwick lads. We're all in this together, and we're going to go up there. We're going to take a bus for the folk, and we're going to give it a right go, definitely. And hopefully, I'm confident that we can get the win, and stay in this division. This is where we want to be playing. We don't want to be playing National 3 next year. We want to be playing in National 2. We've shown at times this year that we're more than good enough against the better teams. Obviously, we beat Falkirk here. Glasgow Accies, we got beaten last play of the game off of them here. Peebles at their place, we should have won that game as well. So we've done more. We've shown that we're more than capable of playing in this league, and that's where we want to play.
Colin, how essential was that test today going into Preston Lodge?
Absolutely massive. We spoke about the two games, the next two games prior to today were going to have to be good dogfights. And that was an absolute dogfight. I think that's how we'll get the beating of Preston Lodge if we take into that physicality dogfight. We knew what we get from them. We've played them for the last 4 or 5 seasons now, and nothing changes. They're just a big physical pack of forwards running hard at you.
I've got to ask you, will you look at Preston Lodge particularly next week, or will you just concentrate on Berwick?
We've just got to worry about ourselves, Mickey. We've just got to turn up, we've got to play, we've got to make sure we don't make basic mistakes. If they go ahead, don't panic. If we go ahead, keep the top 2 inch mentality right. Look, I've never been a big one about worrying about opposition. I've always said to the boys, the only team that really beats us is ourselves, and I strongly still believe in that. That at times when we're heads right, we're good. When my head's a little bit wrong, we're beating ourselves, and we're either pressing panic buttons or we're making fundamental mistakes at crucial parts of the game.
Well, let's concentrate on Berwick then. In the home match against Preston Lodge, defensive sets were absolutely brilliant. You kept it going for 80 minutes and the backs flourished.
We did that day. I can't remember the final score. It was
43-26.
43-26. I knew it was quite a good scoreline for us that day. We did score some great tries that day. We opened up, but again we had to earn the right to score them tries that day, and we took them on up front and matched them up front to allow our backs to flourish, and they'll be much the same. We'll be wanting to do much the same next week as try to win the space, win the space battle. If we win that space battle, then we've got a chance, and as long as our discipline holds true and we don't make fundamental basic mistakes, we should be okay.
And finally, you don't have to answer this, but what words of wisdom will you tell them before they run out next week?
Words of wisdom comes from me, from a lot of passion on the day. I'm quite an emotional guy, and there will be the boys. We need to play the game first. Let the emotions, put them to the side. But first and foremost, we've got to win the game. Play the game, not the occasion. And we're a big family, and we've came so far. None of us will want to let a family member down next Saturday, and that will be the key message, that they've just got to stick together for 80.
Play the game, not the occasion, was what he said. That's his words of wisdom. Colin Young, Mason Emery and Jack Webster from Berwick. As I mentioned, this is our first ever visit to Penny Pit, the home of Preston Lodge. And let's hear from their head coach, Mark Steedman, for a Preston Lodge point of view.
Yeah, we're very much excited about the prospect of actually being able to avoid relegation. 6 weeks ago we were kind of resort to the thought of going down into the new league structure, but we've managed to get some good results together and get some of our key players back, which has been a real issue for us over this season. And consistency within selection has been a learning curve for us. We've used 42 players this season compared to last season where we used 24, where we had a reasonably good season last season. But at that, we've managed to blood in some new young players, homegrown players that have come through our system. So for round about 70% of the season, we've had at least 5 guys that are 19-year-old in the first 15, which going forward will be brilliant for us. But it is a big, hard league to be in for these guys to step up to straight away, and that's been noticeable in some of our results. So we've managed to get some older heads and back in within the last sort of 3 to 4 weeks back training. In the last 2 games, we've had a bit consistency within our selection, which has allowed us to pick up some good points on the road and at home to be able to get us into this situation. Looking at Berwick, When we went down there early in the season, we were put to the sword a few times. We were very much dominated within the backs, which I think their backs are very exciting. The pack are big. Colin's got them really well drilled. So yeah, it'll be a tough one, but something that we're really looking forward to. And as a club, we're hoping a big crowd come out and we can remain in the leagues where I think we deserve to be. But yeah, it'll be a very, very tough day at the office, and hopefully we can put some things right and put our season to a good close.
Well, of course, everyone gets excited about big games involving big teams, but there's just as much drama at club level, as we've just heard. Great build-up, great social media, a lot of people talking about it, coaches coming from Berwick. That's what rugby's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's big. It's big for them because it's when you're in that environment, nothing's bigger than trying to keep your home club or your hometown in the division that they're in. You hear Colin Young talking about letting family members down, which is it's admirable because I get where he's coming from, but then that's just the emotion behind it. That's what that'll be the message that they go out. It's an interesting game because PL have been down for a while. They've been kind of backs against the wall, pulled a few good results together, but they've alluded there to the fact that they've got a really young squad. Now, relegation wouldn't be the worst thing to happen to them. It'd allow those young players perhaps a little bit more of a healthier environment to thrive. But it's the same with Berwick. Got a lot of young players in that squad. They've come up and went and tried to progress over the last few years, and they'll not want to stop now. They'll want to cement themselves in this division. So much to play for, and I don't think it matters if it's Edinburgh versus Glasgow, or if it's the Super Series or Autumn Internationals, or if it's amateur rugby. Like, it's as big as you make it. And this weekend will be one of those weekends at Pennypit. They'll make it huge because there'll be a big crowd. There'll be a lot of energy and a lot of passion on display, and that's what it's all about. That's what these leagues are all about, is the fact that people are playing for their badge, they're playing for their town, and they'll not want to leave anything out in the field.
Well, Berwick's match against last week was a big test for them for the various reasons that Mickey brought up with Mason and Colin and Jack as well. And good to hear Mark Steedman, the Preston Lodge head coach, talking about the game as well very, very passionately. And fair play to the club for getting themselves into this position with a superb performance at Falkirk to snatch 2 excellent bonus points, which meant, of course, Berwick's win against Lasswade wasn't enough to keep Berwick up. And now we have this situation where it's almost a winner-take-all kind of scenario. But home advantage for Preston Lodge this time. It has all the makings of a really tense encounter and a real fascinating match.
Yeah, it's great to hear a coach out with the Borders, coming in and giving us a soundbite and hearing what he's got to say. And I echo it. He's obviously the team have went through a lot of a lot of struggles at the beginning of the season, started to put some results together at the point where it matters. That gives them the confidence. You would say almost in the balance of it, you would say PL are probably going into this slight favourites, home advantage. They've had the better run of fixtures in the last few games. Berwick, yes, they had a good result against Lasswade, but it was probably a little bit closer than they would have liked to have had it. But, it's a cup final. That's it. They've got to go out, and both teams will be giving it absolutely everything. I know James Johnson from Preston Lodge, he was at the Borders College a few years ago actually studying as a full-time student. Big lad, front row, can play in the back row as well, but he's a really good rugby player from what I've seen him, and he's never left his club. So you can imagine, for everybody that we know at Berwick, there's another 15, 20 guys at PL that are going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that Preston Lodge are in the same division next year.
Well, I think we've built it up quite nicely, haven't we? That's 2 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be live from Pennypit, and we'll also be live at Langholm as well. We've got 2 teams out, and more about the Langholm Sevens a little bit later on. But it's a 5-hour show all the way up to pretty much nearly 7 o'clock. 2 other 15s games involving Borders teams, and a game that could have been one of the games of the season a few weeks ago when it was originally scheduled. Now there's nothing at stake really for either Gala or Ayr for the game at Netherdale in National League 1. Something which I discussed during the week with Gala's Liam Scott. So Liam, it's the final match at last in National 1 for you, Gala v Ayr. It could have been a huge match a few weeks ago. How'd you approach this one?
Look, we've got a team selected, and there'll be some young boys in there, some boys that didn't maybe get as much game time during the normal season, but yeah, we've got a team picked and get it played.
Tell me about Aberdeen, because you were 28-10 down, red carded, you came back to win.
It was one of those games that was always going to be really hard getting up for it, because it was a a dead rubber. It's not like a league decider where it's easy to get up for it. So went up there and took us a while to find our feet. Took us to the last 20 minutes really, and then we kind of started playing and we managed to turn it on with 14 men. So no, it was a good win under the circumstances. Like that.
Very satisfying, because as you say, it must have been a long journey up there, and obviously it would have been a long journey back.
Aye, definitely. It was one of those. It was definitely a game we wanted to kind of get out of the way, but the way the boys kind of rallied when we were 28-10 down, can't fault it. So it bodes well for next season. There was a lot of young faces in there as well, so they got exposed to it, and a game like that was a good one for them. So
you've been able to put a team together for Langholm Sevens and also a team for Ayr.
Aye, so we've got 2 teams out on Saturday, so just go out and enjoy it.
And just finally, whilst I've got you here, you're wearing the South jersey at the moment. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's a massive thing. Obviously, it's steeped in tradition. It's a privilege. I'm looking forward to it.
More on the South a little bit later on in the programme. That's Liam Scott there, and I'd imagine the journey back from Aberdeen would have been quite a fun one after that.
Definitely. The bus trips for Aberdeen were always pretty good. The long bus trips. I know some people bemoan the long journeys, but I loved them. I thought they were always great. So, it was a good opportunity for Gala. We've spoken about them over the last few weeks in terms of where they are and where they've been. And this last little section of the season has been a bit to try and focus ahead of next year. It will be interesting to hear in terms of what their coaching setup's going to be. But it's great to hear Liam speak there about the fact that they're going to give people an opportunity, which I think you need to be doing in club rugby, especially when you've got nothing to play for. You need to be giving people that chance to try and impress and try and stake a claim for next year. But yeah, I don't know if there's any. I've not heard anything about any coaching setup, but obviously, they've been kind of. You've probably had caretakers and interim coaches in the kind of time period since Jono left. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Gallo next year. I think they're in a really, really good place as to where they've been over the last few years. Obviously, narrowly missing out in promotion last year, but before that, they've kind of just floated about, where now they look like they've got a real focus, which is great to see, because Gallo are a huge, huge rugby club, not just in the Borders but in Scotland. So it'll be interesting to see where they kind of go next year. But yeah, I'll give them a chance this weekend to get some players out in the park, play Ayr in what will be a competitive tie, and then they can focus on the Sevens as well. Again, another weekend where they've got to go back to back.
And with Gala in 4th place at the moment, Melrose in 2nd, Kelso in 1st. The National One, quality there from the Borders is fantastic. And of course, Ayr needs just 4 points, I think it is, probably a bit more, because they're still adrift as far as points difference is concerned. But they'll be obviously wanting to finish 2nd as well, so it's something for them.
Yeah, and I think on your point about the Border teams there, obviously Kelso are promoted, which is great. Gala and Melrose have been in the fight for a long period of time, and they were last year as well. I had a conversation with somebody asking about why, and I kind of touched on it last week, but why there's no players from Peebles or from Berwick in the South squad, and there's your answer, is because the teams in the Premiership are obviously going to have the lion's share of players. The teams below that are actually fighting to get in that division. Those teams aren't too far away from being Premiership teams. And then there's a bit of a gulf again between those teams and Peebles and Berwick. And there's your answer. That's exactly why there's such a gap between them. So it's great. In terms of Borders Rugby at the moment, it is brilliant to see those 3 teams competing at the top. Obviously, Kelso, they're out. Hopefully they can now, build and keep going and compete at the top level. Next year, it'd be great to see. Sorry, I'm going to upset loads of Ayr fans, because I know they're really passionate about their clubs, but it would be great to see Gala or Melrose be able to get promoted next year again and give Ayr another year in National 1.
Yep, interesting stuff there. And of course, in National 2, Peebles are at home to Kirkcaldy with nothing at stake at all. But head coach Ian Chisholm always has something to say, whether it's a dead rubber or not.
Last game of the season for us, and it's a home one against Kirkcaldy. I think there's probably a bit of frustration around not being able to get this game moved forward. I think there was loads of opportunities for us to play it, especially considering we went up there on a Friday night to accommodate plans that they wanted. But look, it is what it is. They've got to look after themselves, and we would do the same. While it is the last home game for us and last game of the season, it's the last time that we'll have this specific group of boys together. Example there, we've got the likes of Andrew Brown retiring at the end of the year, and and there's a couple other boys that haven't made their minds up yet. So it's a sad time, but it's an exciting time as well. I really appreciate a lot of the effort and the hard work that these boys have put in this season to help get the club to where they are. And while this is a stepping stone to where we want to be next season, these guys have been a massive part of that. And this week, while we do have Langholm Sevens to go to, and we're sending an 11 or a 12 up there, we still want to win this game. We still want to be fourth, and we still want to be clear fourth. So look, our team to take on Kirkcaldy at home, it's a heavy pack, and that pack sort of spills out into the back line, which has been a bit of an issue for us all season, where we've had back rows playing in the centres for the majority of the game this season, and a lot of our games this season we've carried 4 forwards on the bench. So look at the front row, the starting front row for Saturday against Kirkcaldy at home is John Gray, John Napier, Willie Aitken. Ross Brown and Russell Brown make up the second rows. Evan McKeever, Ewan Jackson and Finlay Collins make up a strong back row. Caleb McKeever and youngster James Thompson, they're in at halfbacks, and Miles Harrison, he's just popped back from New Zealand for the weekend, so he's getting a wee run out on the wing. And the centres are really interesting for us. We've again, it's been no different to what we've had this season, and no different to what we had up at Kirkcaldy, where we took a good score off them, where we've got forwards playing in the centres. And I do believe that the way that we train, it creates real hybrid players that are able to run, catch, pass, tackle, and if you look at like Kami Pai and Rowan, they've both got a kicking ability. So Kami Pai and Rowan McKeever make up the centres. Neil Hogarth, he comes out of the front row and goes back to the wing where he started. He's actually lost a lot of weight. He's on a certain diet. I'm not sure what the diet is, but he's lost a lot of weight, and he's looking really good at the moment. So he's put his hand up, and like, he's a quality club man. He's put his hand up and said, "Look, I'll play anywhere." So he's playing on the wing for us. And Davy Anderson comes in at fullback, again another really good club man he's always reliable, and he always says, "Yeah, I'll do that when we need him." Andrew Brown, Kev Wilson, they're our forwards on the bench, and our number 18 and number 19 are to be confirmed at the moment. There's a number of things going on. We're waiting on availability from a couple of boys who are trying to change some things around, and there will be an opportunity for a Colt or two to come into that match day squad. So look, on Saturday, Graham Patterson along with Keith Nisbet will be leading the first 15. Lee Dark will be taking on management duties for that, and myself, Greg Rayburn and Mark Smith will be our manager down at Langholm. So our squad to go down to Langholm, we were obviously disappointed with our second tie against Selkirk at Berwick. We thought we had opportunities to win that game, and we were probably a bit of fatigue set in because we had played a lot of ties over the weekend. We were up at North Berwick as well. But we should have won the tie against Gala, and then we should have put Selkirk to bed. But look, I think we were winning with 3 minutes to go, and we ended up getting beat 15-5. So that's just how it is in Sevens, and it's so easy just to switch off and concede a couple of tries as and when you go. So our squad going down to Langholm: James Dow, Murdo Anderson, Finlay Sinclair, Ross Thompson, Donald Anderson, Dave Collins, Frey McKeever, Jay Coltman, Rob Harrison, Clark Young, and myself, Ian Chisholm. We've got Langholm and we've got Selkirk again. So we obviously want to win respect, but at the same time we want to be winning ties. We want to be getting better, and we want to just keep chipping away. And hopefully by the end of the Kings of the Sevens series, we'll have made our way into the latter part of tournaments, and from there we give ourselves an opportunity, whether that's just a final or whether that's to go and have a go at a tournament. Then hopefully we can make that happen and give these boys an opportunity to do that.
There he is, his last one of the season. Ian Chisholm there, a master of multitask. He can do dishes and do his soundbite at the same time. He can be babysitting, all sorts of things. But whatever he's doing, he's talking about rugby.
Yes, it's great. I'm still a bit miffed after I walked onto the Berwick pitch on Sunday and he just slapped my belly and said, fancy losing a bit of that. And
well, Neil Hogarth has.
And getting shit. Aye, I know.
How old is Neil?
Neil will be, I think he'll be 39.
How old are you, Dale?
I am
younger.
Good question. Yes, I'm younger. Yes. Yeah, I've actually been doing the commentary stuff for longer than I played senior rugby, so a bit of a hypocrite at times. But it's great to hear Ian Chisholm. He's had a great impact in that club. I've said it week on week. I can't praise Ian Chisholm high enough. I'm worried about Andrew Brown retiring again, because I think that might be his 5th or 6th whip round that he's probably been able to get. But it's great to see he's came back and he's helped out in a difficult weekend. I obviously know the names quite well, and to hear the squads that they're putting out, I can confirm I'm not going to be number 18 or 19 in that squad. But to hear the squad that they're putting out, it's a really, really strong squad going to Langholm, which I'm really happy about. But it's still a strong squad playing against Kirkcaldy. It's a nothing game, and I know there's now 3 backs or something listed, in that team. But Cammy Pye used to be a centre. Rowan McKeever's a good rugby player. He's one of the McKeever Andersons, so he can play rugby. Neil Hogarth was a brilliant winger, and he's been equally as brilliant at prop. Going back there, he's explosive. If he's not lost any pace. It's the fact that his power and his, you get a little bit older and your body then can't do what it used to, but he'll give absolutely everything. And so, it's great. And I think the opportunity to perhaps bring a couple of Colts in as well is good. So, and on top of that, Graham Patterson, ex-head coach of Musselburgh, who was in the Premiership for many a year, a great person to step in for Ian Chisholm as well. So it's great to see him back at Peebles. So, yeah, there's your 5 minutes or so talking about Peebles on the radio.
And of course, we're into the event number 6 of the 10 in the Kings of the Sevens. We're still playing 15s rugby. I mean, it really is annoying. I really hope that the 10-team leagues, we get this sorted out once and for all, because overlapping from league to cup and cup into sevens and league into sevens does nothing for the Scottish club rugby scene.
Doesn't at all, right? And hats off to Gala, Peebles, Berwick last week as well, and obviously this week they're obviously committed to playing 15s. The Peebles squad going down to Langham's really strong. I'm not quite sure about the Gala squad yet, but the thing that really irks you is Kirkcaldy not being flexible at all, because Ian Chisholm speaks about they're going up on the Friday night, and I think Peebles absolutely pumped them, by the way, as well. So that was great that they've been flexible for them. Ian Chisholm says, we would do the same. They wouldn't do the same. They've already been accommodating towards Kirkcaldy, so it's frustrating that they couldn't play it on a Friday night or play it another time. So, we talk about week on week, but let's give a little bit of plaudits to the teams that are really digging in hard to field really strong squads in all tournaments and commit to what they've got to do.
Well, let's have a look at the Langholm Sevens then. The Pool A is Gala, Heriots Blues and Jed Forest, which on paper looks pretty strong to me. Pool B, Peebles, Langholm and Selkirk. Pool C is Melrose, Carlisle and Kelso. And Pool D, Watsonians, Edinburgh Accies and Hawick. And the table at the moment as it stands, Melrose on the top, 27 points. They've had 2 runners-up and 2 semi-finals and a quarter-final, so they've scored in every round so far, including the Melrose Sevens, the only Borders team to get points at that tournament. Edinburgh Accies up to 2nd now, joint with Watsonians on 21. Gala slipped from 1st to 4th, and they're on 20, so still very, very congested at the top end. Peebles, fair play to them, they've dropped to 5th place, purely because Edinburgh Accies have jumped over them, but they managed yet again to get points at a tournament. They have 16 now. Hawick are on 13, Selkirk have 10, Kelso and Berwick locked together on 6 each, and Jed Forest, who finally got off the mark, they got 5 points.
Jed, I think they have been, from my playing time and obviously commentating as well, I've always loved watching Jed Forest play sevens. And even with 5 points, sitting down in 10th, there's nothing to say that they can't turn that table completely on its head with the personnel that they've got. And Gary Monroe, I've been thoroughly impressed with the way that he's been playing sevens over the last 2 tournaments that I've seen him, Melrose and obviously at Berwick as well. Sometimes a bit Jekyll and Hyde, but the control and the calmness in his play has been brilliant over the last couple of tournaments, so he will be a huge loss. But although the pools there are interesting, Edinburgh Accies, Watsonians will be difficult, because you would imagine that Hawick will probably field again a development type squad. Carlisle, a bit of an unknown quantity, but Kelso now can start to focus on sevens. They've got a lot of good players in there. That Melrose Kelso game will be really interesting, depending on what happens with Carlisle. I think Pool B again. I think Pool B is going to be an interesting game between Peebles and Selkirk. Selkirk, I think on paper, team for team, have better personnel. They're just not used well enough. Ian Chisholm has got such a good cohesion in that squad, and he's right. They should have beaten Selkirk. They should have beaten Gala. That's not me speaking as a Peebles person. That's me speaking as watching the rugby game that went on. They were better in both. So, Ian Chisholm's got a squad playing really well, and I think again that game will be interesting, but Langham will have a lot to say about it. But yeah, Pool A as well, Gala, Heriots and Jed Forest, that could almost be anybody's. Gala have had a really good start to the Kings of the Sevens. Jed Forest are looking and desperate for points, and Heriots are a Premiership team. They'll have a lot of good players, like Robbo might be playing. Graham Wilson's a good Sevens player as well, but there's other players and other personnel in that Heriots team that Peebles are fortunate they've got Ross Thompson from Heriots. So, it's they've certainly got a lot of key personnel to be able to call upon.
And of course at Berwick, Edinburgh up the first time they've ever picked up the trophy at that particular tournament. So many congratulations to them. The final down at Langham will be at 6:30, round about then. We'll be there as well for that. Robin Purdy leading the team at Milntown with Ewan Welsh, Neil Hinnigan and Ian Hurd all there. This week the South got together, the 39-man squad having their first training session. I caught up with Matty Douglas, who's the head coach, but first a chat with Bruce McNeil and Musselborough's Danny Owenson.
Bruce, this could be your 5th appearance on the South. You're the only one who's actually played in all 4 this century.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure to be here. It's training always kind of steps up when you come to train with these calibre of players, and it's enjoyable challenging yourself, challenging each other, and hopefully we can gel quick enough and make sure that we put our best foot forward going into the Edinburgh game.
There's no sort of foregone conclusion that you or anyone will be stepping out and starting for the South.
Absolutely, the competition in the Borders is just massive. All the Borders teams are doing really well, but we know what challenges ahead of us. And listen, Matty and the coaches and Chegg, they're on it. They know what's coming at us, and I think it was a bit sceptical to start with, kind of player buy-in and stuff in all the districts. But if you look at the squads, they're pretty strong throughout. So listen, we know what we're coming up against, and that was our first good training session tonight, and lads seem to be enjoying it, which is the most important thing.
Great representation from all the clubs around the area.
Every club's got a couple of diamonds in there, and it must have been tough for Matty to pick the squad sort of thing. There's a lot of guys put their hand up throughout the season, and it doesn't get any easier.
How difficult is it to actually gel on the park? Because it's something that Matty was saying that you have to be able to gel, put everything else out the window, local rivalries, because you're coming together for the South.
I don't know about anyone else. I find it quite easy, because when you're in the park, you're going to battle, no matter what. And as soon as the final whistle blows, it's the end of it, sort of thing, and it always has been. And I'm sure it's the same for most of the lads. So, listen, you have a bit of banter and you have a bit of rumble and tumble in the park against your local rivals. But listen, we're all here to do a job. We're all pretty decent rugby players, and if you don't buy into that, it's not going to go your way.
Of course, you had the honour of captaining the South side 12 years ago, 2011, against the Barbarians, leading the team out there. What do you remember from that experience?
I remember John Dale and Chick Chalmers put me in at tight head. I wasn't very happy about that because I've been playing 8 for a few years, and it was pretty tough, to be fair, and it was very frantic. But I think it potentially could be like this in a couple of weeks' time. A lot of guys have played throughout the season with pressure on the back, either relegation or promotion, and that goes with a bit of fear factor sort of thing. But I think most of the lads will be coming in here knowing, that listen, there's pressure, but that's pressure what you put on within. Let's just cut loose and let's have a real pop at them.
And of course we have to get the best players on the park. That might mean some playing slightly out of position.
Yeah, 100%. As we say, the player buy-in, I don't think anybody cares where they play, sort of thing. I think they're just happy to get in the pitch and get that South jersey on.
So we're a couple of weeks away now from the big events happening down here at Netherdale. District Rugby, explain it to those who've never experienced it before, because it has been 6 years.
Yeah, it's something special, and I think most teams, when it came out, they were a bit dubious, the timing of it, the length of the season and whatnot, but I think you can tell by the intensity in training and the buy-in that we've had that guys are looking forward to it, and it's just a different level and different atmosphere, and hopefully get a big crowd down here at Netherdale to support us, and if we do, hopefully we can serve them proud.
And it's the clubs that wanted the inter-district back.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's just a pleasure, and it is a reward for players that's potentially been playing really good for their club, and potential short window for some players. Club internationals just round the corner. So, listen, you never know. You play well in this, and you could get the call up for the club international or further. So yeah, it's good for everybody, and we just need to make sure we enjoy it and everybody buys into it.
Well, you're looking as fit as ever, and you've just had promotion for Kelso, which was an amazing achievement for the boys. A word on that?
Yeah, well, that's me just getting rid of my sore head now, thanks to Kev Utterson. But no, listen, it was good. I said, to the boys, I thought it'd be great sitting top of the league most of the season, but it wasn't. It was just every game, Ayr, Melrose and Gala and Biggar, they just kept coming at us and they never gave us a week to breathe. So it's nice to finally get across the line and just to top it off, get the win up at Highland. So that was really nice on the cake sort of thing. And 7-5 just kind of typifies the way we've been playing. Really being a hard team to beat sort of thing. And that's pretty much what we've built our season on, has been really hard to beat, and that's what got us through in the end.
4 Borders teams in the Premiership, Kelso one of them.
Exciting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. How are you going to fare up there?
Listen, it's an unknown, isn't it? Especially for Kelso, but I think a bit of luck comes down to make sure you can retain your squad players and make sure that you don't get as many injuries, which is probably going to be inevitable playing at a higher level, more physical type of game. So we'll just need to box clever, make sure that we get pre-season correct, and if we need to strengthen our squad, we might need to strengthen our squad. But what we've got, we'll certainly. Main thing is to retain the players that we've got, because they've done us bloody well so far.
Well, Danny, did you ever think you'd be considered for the South team?
No, it's never been on my mind, to be honest. But that's a great call up. It's a great set up down here in Gala. Obviously been here before, and Matty seems like a great coach, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting in the team for the South.
Great compliment to Musselburgh as well. 6 players involved with the 39 squad, and it's been an interesting season, but I certainly had a kick at the end.
Yeah, I think the confidence was always high with the running games we had. I don't think it was ever in doubt, but no, certainly at the end just nicked it. So no, it was a really good result.
And being amongst these boys as well, there's a lot of talent on that pitch at the moment.
That's great. I mean, the Borders has always had a pool of talent down here, and especially the Hoyt team at the moment who are flying. So that's good just to learn off the boys and get their different lines and different game shapes. It's really good.
And of course, being back at Netherdale, it's a place you know quite well.
Yeah, no, it's great. I've had some great memories here. The London Scottish victory was probably the highlight of my career, to be honest. So no, it was really good.
That was
memories.
A hell of a game, wasn't it? I think they had Godman on the side, didn't they?
They did, that's right. But Lee Miller played him off the park. So no, it was really good.
And of course, your brother involved as well, which is a double thing for the family.
No, it's great. I think we've always played together since we were. Well, he was 21, I was 18, and no, it's good just to carry that on, to representative stuff. The South is obviously a very historical team. It'd be great just to play another game down here at Netherdale as the home side.
And when did you actually find out that you were part of the South?
I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Shaky, the backs coach, had sent me a text just to say you were in. Then obviously got the text inclusion in the WhatsApp group, and listen, delighted. Great setup and great historical thing to be a part of. So now I'm desperately looking forward to getting into the team and see where we go from there.
Of course, not just a scrum half. You could be quite happily playing number 10 as well.
Hopefully not, but no, listen, I play anywhere. As long as I'm playing, it's just about playing rugby. So no, wherever they need me, I'll pull in the shot.
Well, we wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
Well, Matty Douglas, first session as head coach of the South of Scotland. How did that go?
It was really good, Stuart. Look, the quality we've got in that squad, it makes life a bit easier as a group of coaches. That what we're trying to do and what we're trying to run is in most clubs, and look, they trained really well. And the big thing for us is that they gel quickly. They're good enough players, but we need to get them to really gel. And you get that bit of cohesion and bit of team spirit, and that's what the quality will come through off of that. But look, we're really happy with our starting point. You had 37 boys out there tonight, all vying for a place to get in that final squad for the 2 games.
How different is it from being head coach of Hoyt to suddenly become head coach of the South?
None too much changes. You're getting a quality group of players coming in. They've had a full season, so nothing really changes in terms of shape-wise. We're obviously giving them a lot of content over the next couple of weeks, but look, nothing changes. The Chegg, Shaky, we all do the same sort of job at our own clubs, but at the end of the day, this is a step up again. And look, we're in this inter-district to try and go on and win it. So look, we're putting the hard work in now and getting a few sessions in before the game back here at Netherdale on the Tuesday night.
It's a squad of 39 at the moment. That's going to be cut to 23, I think, on the match day, isn't it? So there's a lot of decisions to be made, and of course these 2 sessions that you're having will provide you with the answers.
Yeah, and I think we could have picked a smaller squad to start with, but when the season goes on as long as it is, I've never been able to get round a lot of the clubs to see boys playing. So There's selectors there, and we feel that these boys deserve an opportunity to showcase what they can do. And that tonight shows how many quality players are playing in club rugby for the Premiership to National 1, even in National 2. So it's great to see, and there's got to be a lot of tough decisions to make as everybody trained well tonight. But look, that's why we're here, and that's why you're in charge, to make the tough calls. But there'll be a lot of boys put their hand up for that final squad.
And as you've proved all season, you're not a man who will shirk the tough calls.
Nah, look, and I've always said that to you, that's the toughest part, leaving boys out. But look, we're giving them a fair crack, and as coaches we'll look at it and we'll pick what we think is the best 30 and then the best 23 to take on Edinburgh on the Tuesday night. But I think the big thing is the quality that we've got and the experience. You've got boys like Petty, Sean Muir, Bruce McNeil, straight away bringing their experience in, and it makes our job a lot easier. They're putting points across that we didn't need to input in, and it's always a lot easier coming for a player as well. So it'll be a tough call to make that final squad.
And you've got to pick a captain as well.
Yeah, look, well, these next two sessions we'll see who's stepping up, and there's lots of players in there who've got leadership qualities. You've got captains, you've got Matty Carrier, Sean Muir, Bruce McNeil. As I said,
to choose from.
There's a lot to choose from, and it's getting a balance right. There's a lot of youthful players in there as well, that like your Dwayne Patterson, who's came in, and your Kirk Fords and boys like that. You've got a lot of blend experience, and maybe boys who haven't been in this situation before. So it looks like it's got to come together nicely, but we're going to have to put the hard work in, on top of trying to keep boys fresh for club rugby and sevens alongside it.
And is it really a blank sheet of paper that you've got to work from, or do you have something in your mind of how you feel it probably is at this stage?
It's a blank canvas. You obviously you look at team sheets and you look at players and standouts for the season and in National 1, National 2 and in the Premiership. But I've said that time and time again, I'll watch and I'll see who puts their hand up and who puts 100% effort into try and get into that squad, and that's what I'm about. These players due an opportunity to showcase what they can do. It's the first time for a while we've been able to get this sort of squad together, and the end goal is to push for club international in the start of next year. So there's a lot of boys in there who'll be keen to represent the South, probably.
And of course, for the first time, Musselburgh are involved.
Yeah, and I think it just obviously, moving with the times, academies are obviously linked up, but the Musselburgh boys have jumped in straight away, and part of what we're trying to do. And obviously, Shaky, the backs coach, is assistant coach at Musselburgh. So look, it's not about shutting them off. We'll give them an opportunity. They've got a lot of quality players in there. So again, putting their hand in the ring to get selected.
And there's a real buzz about this, isn't there? I mean, the players, just talking to a few of them now, there's a real buy-in for the red and white stripes.
Yeah, and I think I was a bit nervous, if I'm honest, when I first got the role, in terms of would we get buy-in. We're got to be into May when we're playing games. Like the Hoyt boys have still got a cup final to play, so it was if could we get buy-in and how would we get buy-in. And straight away, once we start with the approach that we made, asking players, and when we started getting responses, we thought actually we're onto something here. And even tonight, they're all zoned in, and they're keen to get that jersey on. And a lot of these boys haven't been there in the past. I think there's only a couple, like Bruce, Sean, Luke Petty, these sort of players that have played in the last South game. So it's a new influx, and the key thing for us is keeping this squad together for going into the inter-district, which will be around Christmas, January time next season. So we're building now, and hopefully it is here to stay now, and it's not going to be that we play it 1 year and it's off for 3 years, because these players deserve to be in the limelight at times and put themselves for it for getting a club international cap.
And of course the clubs wanted the inter-district back, and it's not ideal the way it is at the moment with the two games, etc. But I think there's a real willingness, really, I suppose, to get this on a more permanent footing, and I think it will.
Yeah, I think it will, and I think the key is to get buy-in now. If we can get buy-in in May at the end of the season, then you'll have no problem at all getting buy-in at Christmas time when you've got a break. And the added incentive is that this goes towards the club international, and it's been a few years, I think, before COVID the last time the club international was on. And you look at the players we've got in the Borders now, that some of them that I've listed, like these boys deserve an opportunity at club international, and we need to make it work as a group of coaches, a management team, and hopefully, as you say, we can go year after year, helping coaches, bring coaches that are performing well in club rugby, and also players. And we're also keen to invite younger players that maybe haven't made the squad, like some Marcus Brogan, players like that, a couple of boys for Peebles that can come in and experience a bit higher level training, and that's what we're wanting to achieve. And end of the day, we also want to win the inter-district.
Well, just finally, I have to ask you about the Cup final, which is coming up on May the 6th. It was a fantastic performance at Hughenden the other day. This is kind of the thing which will put the cherry on the top, won't it? But you're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet, and to be honest, we had to dig deep on Saturday. I thought for 60 minutes we weathered a storm. Credit to Hawks, they played really well, got their game plan right, but for us, that last 20 we stayed in the game, and our fitness and just our shape really kicked on, and I was really happy with the way we finished the game. And look, we know we're playing Mara, a top quality outfit, but look, the club are working really hard. We've already got buses getting booked, and there's a lot of interest, so hopefully we can get a big support. I remember the last time when I played there, it was a great occasion, and I think me and Sean Muir are the only players that played in that 2015 Cup final that are still in around the squad, and it's a great occasion for these younger players, and as you say, I think they thoroughly deserve the opportunity to play there, and I think it would be the icing on the cake if we could do the Cup and League double that we've not done in 21 years, but we're going to have to improve in our performance, I would say, but it's got to be a great occasion, and the boys are already buzzing for it, so looking forward to it.
Always pleasant to spend some time with Matty Douglas, and was there for the team talk as well. And the South are not here to make the numbers, no question about that. And he doesn't want to be the first coach this century to lose.
Yeah, I think that the team that the South can pick from is in a good place because of Hoyk's success. A lot of good players from likes of Jed and Selkirk as well, and it's great to see a lot of Nat 1 players in there from Kelso, Melrose and Gala as well. Great to hear him speaking about the younger players as well. Like, it's something it's great because it's here. I think there was always going to be a buy-in because of the South, and it's probably easier to get a buy-in in May for players for something different. If you were trying to prolong their season and playing for the club, it might have been a little bit difficult, but it is something a little bit different. But the short-term vision for what they're wanting to achieve in the inter-district, it's the long-term goal that they're speaking about in terms of making it a little bit more sustainable. That's the refreshing part of it, which is great to hear. I think, the young coaches, we go back to the programme we did last week. Somebody was explaining about the fact that there should have been some semi-pro players in there. Listen to Matty Douglas speak there. He has just said everything as to why they shouldn't be included, because these players need a little bit of their own pathway. It doesn't have to be club straight up to professional and playing for Scotland. It could be reaching your potential and just segueing right a little bit and playing for the Scotland Club International, playing for the South, like playing for your region where you've been nurtured. So if you want any argument against why the Super 6 and Super Series players shouldn't be involved, that Matty Douglas has just wrapped it beautifully in a little present and put a little bow on top.
How eloquent.
Thank you, yeah. I thought I'd go less aggressive towards the end of that, a little gambit there.
Fantastic. Well, what I found as well, being amongst the training session there and seeing how everyone was interacting with each other, which always fascinates me, because I'm from Edinburgh and I just love Borders rugby, as you know, and the whole point of it is seeing the South and all the players coming together, not just the players themselves, but in the backroom staff as well. There are people from different clubs involved, and everyone seems to come together. I mean, I've heard Border League meetings are quite feisty affairs because everyone's looking after their own thing, but there's something about the South and the South team and the whole history of it and the buy-in from everyone that it just brings everybody together.
It's like sibling rivalry. You'll fight with your brother or your sister like day in, day out. But as soon as somebody picks on them, everybody gets together. And that's a bit like what, rugby, you watch the Stuart McAnally post, when he's obviously announced his retirement, he tells you all the lessons that he's learnt from rugby. Rugby is the best environment, I think, for young people, and young adults growing up. They teach you so many lessons, make so many different connections. But, there'll be the same feeling in the Edinburgh camp now, in the Cali camp, in the Glasgow camp, that cohesive, trying to build that team, trying to get everybody together. It's a little bit easier in the Borders because just by history and by nature, we just seem to gel when the border teams, because we're kind of looked down on a little bit. There's that little bit of reluctance to give in, and so when everybody gets together, it's a great atmosphere. Obviously from what you've been telling me about the way that the teams have come together, the way that the players have come together. It's obviously they're gelling quickly, and that's exactly what you want, especially in these quick turnaround tournaments. You want team building. You want it to be short and sharp. You want them to be cohesive so you can tackle it, because you don't want to be trying to build the team, like a couple of weeks in, or towards your second game, because the tournament's already gone. So it's great to hear that the South are gelling quickly.
And Tuesday, the 9th of May is the date. It's all happening at Netherdale. I think it's a 7 o'clock kickoff. I'll double check that, 7 or 7:30. But it's down at Netherdale. And of course, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of, what amount of spectators we will get for that.
I think if you could get the amount that you got on an absolutely dreich Monday night for the Border League final, I think you double it and more. I would be surprised. And I think over the last few years, the last few decades, we've had the Border Reivers, and initially they were well backed, and then it dwindles and dwindles. Then we get the Southern Knights. I don't feel there's been that uptake from out with the area, perhaps. Friends and family maybe, but not generic supporters. This is something which is steeped in Borders rugby history. Just the name the South. It'll get, I would imagine it was going to get loads and loads of spectators there on a Tuesday night. The weather will be nice. It'll be an occasion for loads of friends and family to come down, but you'll have the club supporters that have supported their clubs for years just glad to see that red and white jersey, but not the people's one, but the red and white jersey of the South, back on display and battling at Edinburgh. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be a sizable crowd. I'd love to see the perimeter, the ground filled, and the stand will be quite sizable as well. So it'll be brilliant. It'll be great.
And of course, it's been 6 years since the South took to the pitch, and that was in fact at Bridgehall for Caledonia. So I think it's 7 or 8 since we've actually had a match in the Borders for the South. So fingers crossed we'll get a lot of people out there. We'll look forward to the occasion, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. Well, that's it for today. Tomorrow we're here for Borders Rugby Special, coming to you live from Preston Lodge's ground at Penny Pit for that crucial National 2 match between Preston Lodge and Berwick. One of them will be safe to play in National 2 again next season. The other will be relegated, with the other 4 already down. And of course we'll be at Milntown as well, bringing you live coverage of the Langholm Sevens. We're on air at 2 o'clock, going all the way through to around 7, so do join us for that. Dale and I will be back next Friday for the Friday Rugby Preview, when we'll be looking at another double weekend with Kelso and Earlston both hosting their Sevens tournaments. But that's it from me and Dale. Bye for now.